Hello, we're COVID-19 and we present to you our web app, Poloctics. And this is a web app that connects voters to local politicians. The idea behind Poloctics is that it condenses publicly accessible information on local legislations into an easy to read, cleanly formatted web app to better facilitate the consumption of political news and voters. And so there are many ways to do this. You can look up your local congressional leaders or follow up on topics that really uh, are important to you. And you can find bills and information related to that to those people and those topics. Uh, One way we could do this is by presenting a Texas representative or any local representative in your area and giving you some information about how they voted in Congress for or against bills, and you can get more information about these bills and what they mean and what they actually do, along with some basic overview of how you can contact and follow up on the representative party policies if they interest you. So it can keep these new generation of voters more informed and have all the information better compiled for them to access rather than having to search through multiple articles to get an idea of who they're voting for, which can be very tedious and time consuming for a lot of people who want to be active voters but do not know how to go about filtering all the information that they have. And so we have designed a website with some basic functions that can direct us towards certain representatives, and I will be passing that over to Anaya, who will explain the features of that.
Alrighty. Um, so, as a first time voter in this election, I don't know a lot about my representatives. So, I can enter my address to find out who exactly represents me. And in national level and at a lower local level. So as I see this list, I can hover over any one of these names and see their party affiliation, a picture, and some contact information about them. Now, I know that John Cornyn is running for re-election, and I've seen a lot of his campaign ads, but I want to know if he actually um, does what he promises in those campaign ads. So I can look up his name in our bill finder and find what kind of bills he's recently sponsored or co-sponsored. And as I do this, I can see what kind of things he values, like a lot of urban development, um, military things, and some other actions. But the other thing I saw was Bill Flores, my representative for my district. I actually don't know much about him. So I can put in his name into our app and see what kind of bills he sponsored. And as I can see, when I see his bills, I see he has some accountability. That's great. And something about some foreign international affairs. So actually, this brings us to our next part of our project, which is the machine learning part of the project, where I can take this brief and then find out what category it falls under. And I will pass that on to Sindhu to explain that machine learning part of our project.
All right, so for our machine learning algorithm, we utilize Google Cloud's AutoML format for natural language processing. And so what I did is I took the bills from the Congressional Bills Project that they compiled into TXT files, and I trained a model to categorize them based on these large number codes. For example, 0 would represent help. So let's see how well our training would work on Bill Flores's Israeli, Bahrain, and UAE bill. And so the predicted label is 19, and we can see that 19 corresponds to the international affairs category. So we can see that our algorithm would be able to categorize these bills into larger branches that would be more accessible to voters that care about certain topics. For example, currently in our web app, we'd be able to see a list of all the bills that they co-sponsored and introduced into Congress, but maybe I only care about environment, for example. So categorizing them would allow me to get closer to topics I truly care about. And another extension of this would be, for example, filtering the political statements in general. For example, I can actually take this Bernie Sanders tweet and see what kind of what category this would fall under. Okay. So we can predict this very sandwich tweet and see what category it falls in under. And so number 3 corresponds to health. So in this way, we can compare and contrast political statements made by representatives and their actual actions in Congress to see whether they correspond. That way we can be more informed voters on whether or not a politician actually lives up to what they promised in their campaign. And we can, and it brings us closer to the stances of who we're voting for in office. And with that, I will lead to our presentation on what's next and our challenges that we faced.
All right, so we built our website using React, the JavaScript library from React, and a couple different APIs. So we have the Google Civic Information API to find information on local congressmen and people in our area, representatives in our area based on location. We use the ProPublica API to find information about the bills, and then we also use the Congressional Bill Project for our ML portion. The last thing is we use Google Cloud AutoML to run our machine learning algorithm.
So obviously we faced a lot of challenges. The two most concerning being this was the first hackathon for most of our team members, and so we had never experienced this, and we didn't really know what it was, so it was a totally new experience for us. And this was our first time using a lot of these technologies, and so it was a pretty steep learning curve for us to figure out the technologies and make sure that it worked.
So our project so far only shows very little of what we really want to do in the future. There's a lot of scope, we believe, in our product, and we can expand to a lot of different things. Essentially, like looking at the machine learning aspect of it, the keywords used to initiate the natural language processing machine learning could be translated into nodes or in software such as in vivo or anything like that to code for different connections and ideas that are common threads between these bills and how people respond. And so we could be using frequency counting and mapping relationships and essentially providing graphical representations of the records of these politicians. And so we can take information from social media, their campaigning platforms, and kind of do a comparative analysis of the actions that these political representatives take versus their actual campaign agenda. And so that goes back to using non-database information sources such as other websites, and then it can also help us better organize topics that people can follow. Like we mentioned, we could follow up on the environment or minority rights or anything like that. And so there's a lot of scope for this website to be really robust and make politics a little bit more easy to digest for the general public, and obviously then make us more informed voters without taking too much time out of our day and without needing too much expertise within the field. So that brings us to the end of our project. This is Poloctics, and we hope you see some scope in our idea because we really believe that it can go long ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.